For thousands of years, the story of Moses has stood as one of the most iconic and transformative narratives in human history. Revered as a prophet in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam alike, Moses is remembered as the liberator of the Israelites from Egypt, the lawgiver who received the Ten Commandments, and the man through whom God revealed his will to humanity. Yet, while both the Bible and the Quran recount his story in great detail, their versions diverge in significant ways. The question arises, which account is historically closer to the truth? Recent discoveries, historical studies, and careful comparisons between the two sacred texts shed surprising light on this ancient tale. Pharaoh's fear and the birth of Moses. The story begins in Egypt, under the shadow of a powerful pharaoh. According to the Bible, the pharaoh, fearful of the growing Israelite population, commanded that every newborn Hebrew boy be cast into the Nile. This was both a method of population control and a brutal attempt to weaken the Israelites' future. The Quran echoes this decree but provides a deeper psychological layer. Pharaoh is portrayed not merely as a political ruler, but as a tyrant consumed by fear, arrogance, and the desire to maintain absolute control. Here lies an interesting historical observation. Ancient Egyptian records do indicate moments when pharaohs feared foreign populations living within Egypt, especially Semitic groups. The Hyksos, for example, had once ruled parts of Egypt, leaving behind a memory of foreign dominance. It is not far-fetched that later pharaohs carried anxieties about rising Israelite numbers. Both texts agree, Moses was born at a time of danger, when simply being alive was a crime punishable by death. His mother, driven by divine inspiration, placed him in a basket and set him adrift upon the Nile. The Bible emphasizes her desperate faith. The Quran highlights God's direct reassurance to her heart, promising that her baby would be protected and returned to her. This subtle difference is profound. The Quran consistently emphasizes God's intimate involvement in unfolding events, while the Bible often portrays human faith as the central driver. Raised in the house of the oppressor, ironically, the child condemned to die was rescued by the very palace that ordered his death. Pharaoh's daughter, according to the Bible, found the infant and raised him as her own. The Quran instead identifies the rescuer as Pharaoh's wife, a woman later praised for her righteousness and faith. This distinction is striking. The Quran portrays Pharaoh's household as divided, with his wife secretly believing in God, while Pharaoh embodied arrogance and denial. Historically, Egyptian palaces often included multiple wives, concubines, and extended family members who could influence court politics. It is not impossible that a royal woman sympathetic to oppressed peoples might intervene to save a child. Once again, both texts agree that Moses grew up surrounded by privilege and education, yet remained internally tied to his true identity. The turning point. Moses kills an Egyptian. As Moses grew older, both accounts record a decisive moment. Moses witnessed an Egyptian oppressing a Hebrew slave. In anger, he struck the Egyptian and killed him. The Bible presents this as an act of justice, but also one that forced Moses to flee. The Quran provides a more nuanced version. Moses admits that his action was a mistake, prays for forgiveness, and God forgives him. This subtle difference is important. In the biblical telling, Moses is largely faultless. In the Quranic narrative, even great prophets are human, capable of error, yet guided by divine mercy. Historically, this element makes the Quranic account more relatable and psychologically believable. Leaders and prophets in history were rarely flawless, and acknowledging their humanity does not diminish their greatness, it deepens it. Exile and revelation in Midian. Fleeing Egypt. Moses arrived in Midian, where he encountered a family in need. Both the Bible and Quran describe his act of helping the daughters of a local elder, who later became his father-in-law. Here, Moses found refuge, married, and spent years away from the land of his birth. It was during this period that a life-changing encounter took place. While tending his flock, Moses approached Mount Sinai and saw a burning bush. From this flame came the voice of God, commanding him to return to Egypt and free the Israelites. The Bible records God introducing himself as I am who I am, Exodus 13:14. The Quran emphasizes God's authority, power, and his command to Moses. Go to Pharaoh, for he has indeed transgressed all bounds. Both versions highlight Moses' hesitation. He doubted his ability to speak clearly, feared Pharaoh's reaction, and felt unworthy of the task. God reassured him, appointing his brother Aaron as a helper. Historically, this reflects a timeless truth. Leaders are rarely eager to step into dangerous roles. They often must be pushed by a sense of calling higher than themselves. Miracles and the contest with Pharaoh's magicians. Back in Egypt, Moses confronted Pharaoh with a simple message: release the Israelites. Pharaoh predictably refused. To prove his divine backing, Moses performed miracles. The Bible describes his staff turning into a serpent, his hand becoming leprous and then healed, and water turning to blood. The Quran recounts similar miracles, but goes into more vivid detail about the confrontation with Pharaoh's magicians. The Quran emphasizes that Pharaoh gathered the best sorcerers of Egypt for a public contest. They threw down their ropes and staffs, and by their trickery, they appeared to create writhing serpents. Then Moses cast down his staff, which truly became a serpent, and swallowed theirs. Witnessing this, many magicians immediately recognized that Moses' act was not mere sorcery but divine power, and they fell in prostration, declaring belief in the God of Moses. This detail is crucial. The Bible does not mention the magician's conversion, but the Quran frames it as one of the earliest cracks in Pharaoh's authority. Historically, Egypt was a land of religious rituals, magic, and symbolism. For professional magicians to abandon Pharaoh publicly would indeed have been a shocking and destabilizing moment. The 10 Plagues and Pharaoh's Arrogance. Both scriptures describe escalating signs and punishments sent upon Egypt: blood in the Nile, plagues of frogs, lice, locusts, boils, darkness, and finally, the death of the firstborn. The Bible presents these as 10 distinct plagues, each increasing in severity. The Quran condenses them but includes other calamities like floods and storms, portraying them as a series of divine warnings. What stands out in the Quran is Pharaoh's repeated arrogance. Each time the punishment came, he promised to let the Israelites go, only to break his word once relief arrived. This cycle of arrogance mirrors historical records of despots who cling to power until the very end, refusing to learn from calamity. The Exodus and Pharaoh's end. At last, the Israelites were commanded to leave Egypt. The Bible describes the dramatic night of Passover, when the angel of death struck the firstborn of Egypt, but spared the houses of the Israelites who marked their doors with lamb's blood. The Quran does not mention this ritual, but focuses on the larger theme of deliverance. The climax comes at the Red Sea, trapped between Pharaoh's pursuing army and the waters ahead. The Israelites panicked. Then Moses, by God's command, struck the sea with his staff, and it parted into towering walls of water. The people crossed on dry ground. Pharaoh's army followed, only to be engulfed as the waters crashed back upon them. Here the Quran provides a chilling historical note absent in the Bible. As Pharaoh drowned, he declared belief in the God of Moses, but it was too late. His repentance was rejected. The Quran adds that Pharaoh's body would be preserved as a sign for future generations. Remarkably, Egyptologists later discovered the mummies of pharaohs from that era, some with signs of drowning or sudden death. Could this be the fulfillment of that verse? Many scholars believe so. Lessons in legacy. So, which account is historically more accurate? Both the Bible and Quran present a story of liberation, faith, and divine intervention. Yet the Quran's version often includes psychological depth, historically plausible details, and claims that intriguingly align with modern discoveries. Pharaoh's preserved body, the role of magicians, and the emphasis on God's justice all present a narrative that feels both spiritually profound and historically resonant. Ultimately, whether one approaches the story as a believer or a historian, Moses' legacy is undeniable. He represents the struggle against tyranny, the courage to confront injustice, and the power of faith to move nations. His story continues to inspire billions across the world, reminding us that even in the darkest of times, deliverance is possible. And at the foot of Mount Sinai, a new chapter begins: the giving of the law, the covenant between God and his people, and the shaping of civilizations for millennia to come. But that is a story for another day. Thank you for staying until the end. Please consider subscribing if you want to see more of such content. See you in the next video.